I'm gonna love everybody through the love I have for me. I'm gonna love everybody, what a wonderful feeling it'll be. So step right up and be my love, I belong to you, you see. Then go out and love because you first loved me. What is love, my friends? Why is it dear? Why should we give it without any fear? I have the answer, friends, I have it in me. Love is giving of yourself, the self that is free. I'd like to tell of my love to those who like to know. I'm not a horse that has to win, don't even have to show. For every winner, losers have to pay. But losers are winners, just playing the game. I'm gonna love everybody through the love I have for me. I'm gonna love everybody, what a wonderful feeling it'll be. So step right up and be my love, I belong to you, you see. Then go out and love because you first loved me. There's a saying, friends, that's going about, says we should go with the flow and let it all out. I believe that that's the way it should be. There's no one alive that should not be free. And again, while I have a chance in this song to sing, I'd like to say that winning is not everything. No one's a loser who tries at all to run. Just in trying should be most of the fun. I'm gonna love everybody through the love I have for me. I'm gonna love everybody, what a wonderful feeling it'll be. So step right up and be my love, I belong to you, you see. Then go out and love because you first loved me. I'm gonna love everybody through the love I have for me. I'm gonna love everybody, what a wonderful feeling it'll be. So step right up and be my love, I belong to you, you see. Then go out and love because you first loved me. Then go out and love, then go out and love, then go out and love because you first loved me. Because you first loved me.
Hello, friends. Welcome to our after-school session on Divine Naturism. We have talked about a lot of things in this series of audio cassette programs dealing with a concept that I think can be appropriately labeled Divine Naturism. I grew up loving God, and I have never stopped loving Him, although I do believe I have changed my attitude a bit on God's sex. Actually, He is just as much a she as a he. That suits me fine because I'm in love with women. Ladies, I love you all, and I enjoy you all so much. I take great pride in finding God in the thrust of life through you. God is in you. There is no doubt of that. I would much rather be awed by the God in you than in any book or poem or song. When I die, I want to die with a smile in my heart, and maybe I'll be blessed to be wrapping my arms around one of you when I go. But when I do go, please celebrate life, and don't pine what you may be missing. The song we opened our program with would be an appropriate song to play in death as it is in life. I'm going to love everybody through the love I have for me. That's the kind of love I boast, and the kind of love I boost. Love is giving of yourself, the self that is free. We have talked of God and have sung about divinity. God is the fiber of the material of existence. He's everywhere, or she's everywhere. God is often seen as the watchdog outside of creation. He or she is not. We have talked of the soul. We're going to talk some more about the soul in this program and things related to the soul. And ghosts. Do you believe in ghosts, friends? I do. I have some mighty friendly ghosts that abide with me in life. if you listen real carefully, you can hear some of my ghosts in the background. Do you hear them? That murmur in the background? Maybe it's my ghost friends. I do believe in ghosts. Did you realize, friends, that someday you'll become the head ghost of your own spiritual tradition? That is, if you want to. I think my life is making me free to be free in death. When I die, I will continue the tradition that I'm starting here. Wherever I am, that's where my tradition will be. The same is true for all of us. You will continue. You will not die. Your tradition will live on. We've talked about nakedness a lot. Nothing is more encouraging of freedom than nakedness. My spiritual tradition is of ghosts who love nature as it is and consequently don't choose to hide and refuse the lessons of life. It's not easy at first to be truthful and to care about the truth. No one at first likes to stand exposed and to shimmer in the nude. Nakedness doesn't come easy because we're all programmed to hide, although it can come eventually, but only if we try. Why not walk with me and find what strength we can? Let us walk beneath the stars and parade natural in the sand. Don't be hurt that you're embarrassed, going forward without clothes. Know that God can only smile at all His graciousness you hold. No man can become a prince by hiding from himself, and no princess can find peace by lying on the shelf. So come on down and feel the goodness that in you does reside, and together let us build a castle that no one can divide. Divine naturism. That's what we've been talking about. It's a good idea, huh? The concept is so simple and yet so terribly profound. As profound an idea as we need to truly value life as a gift. In a way, it's the meaning of Christmas. You know, friends, I honestly believe that Christ came with the idea of divine naturism. The idea that all existence is divine. His providence sent him into existence, as it were, to teach us that birth and the processes of birth are very, very blessed. I don't think Christ was the Son of God in any special way. We are all sons and daughters of God, even the devils among us. But more than being a Son of God, Christ was indeed a very particular son of his providence, as we are all special as sons and daughters of our respective providences. We should celebrate Christmas because it's a sign of the blessedness of birth. Christ and his providence were willing to submit to that process. That means that birth and the processes of life are not sorted from the viewpoint of Christ and his providence. Now, being that Christ came to ordain birth and the processes of birth as blessed, it is unthinkable, friends, that he and his providence bypassed sex to get into this world. It has been traditionally held that Christ was born of a virgin, that he was a human without a human father. I doubt that. For what purpose would he have been a human without a human father? If he came to show that life is blessed, why would he have bypassed a natural conception? Who told us he did? Matthew? Luke? Was it told to us by an angel? If so, do we believe everything angels tell us? And if an angel did not tell us, how do we know it? Did Mary tell the story? Did Christ speak of his own untainted conception? Friends, what is the origin of the story of the Immaculate Conception? Did an angel tell it to Matthew, who in turn passed it on? Was it a story that Matthew heard from a third party? I wish I knew where the real legend of Jesus started. Trying to put the pieces of a legend together is no easy task, friends. But I tend to believe that Christ was born with the name of Emmanuel, not Jesus. He was Emmanuel and probably had as wonderful a mission as any earthling ever born. Christmas was intended to bless birth, and perhaps Good Friday was intended to bless death. Conception is not the consequence of sin, friends, any more than death is the consequence of sin. There is no sin in nature, and the conception and death are both natural processes. Therefore, of what significance would there be to either birth without natural conception or resurrection from the dead? None whatsoever. In my opinion, to accuse any natural process of sin is the mark of an idiot. Why do I believe Christ was probably Emmanuel and not Jesus? Why not Glenn or Richard or Kenneth or whatever? Because, friends, Matthew claimed in his gospel that Christ is essentially the fulfillment of a prophecy. That's a good place to start, to try to make meaning of the legend of Jesus. That prophecy spoke of a virgin bearing a child named Emmanuel. More than likely, that's how the legend got started. That is why Emmanuel, or Christ, was claimed to have been born of a virgin, to fulfill that prophecy. Emmanuel was described in whatever way he had to be described, to fit the prophecy. Since the prophecy required a virgin birth, presto, Christ was born of a virgin. No proof of that was needed. If the condition had to be, then so be it. My speculation is that Christ had the name of Emmanuel, or else he would have never been a candidate for the Jewish messiahship. But in time, the Jews vehemently denied he could be the promised Messiah. That would make his being referred to as Emmanuel rather meaningless, wouldn't it? But once the idea of Messiah was planted in the minds of the masses, they were probably unwilling to give it up. So what if some Jews didn't recognize him? It was also foretold in the prophecy he would be rejected. He was still their Savior, their Jesus. And the legend of Jesus began as the real Emmanuel was forgotten. That legend, once it started, friends, grew out of control. In chapter 9 of his gospel, Matthew has Christ blessing a little girl who is seen by her father to be dead. But Christ says, "She is not dead, she is only sleeping." And he revives her. Is the story true? Maybe, maybe not. Keep in mind, Matthew wrote his story 7 years after the death of Christ. How much of his memory was correct? 13 years after Matthew wrote his gospel, Mark writes one of his own. In the 5th chapter of his gospel, he expands the initial story of the little girl that Matthew wrote about earlier. The little girl is now definitely dead, although Christ once again says, "She is only sleeping." And of course, he revives her. Importantly, though, friends, Mark's story is different from Matthew's in that Mark ties the condition of believing in general on the part of the parents to the little girl's resurrection. "Be not afraid, only believe," he says. Matthew doesn't tie this condition to the little girl's recovery, but Mark does. The legend continues to grow. 20 years later, Luke writes an account of Christ. He doesn't restrict himself to Christ raising only a little girl from the dead. He adds to the legend and has Christ raising 2 people from the dead, one in chapter 7 and another in chapter 8. I guess Matthew and Mark were ignorant of the second resurrection. Luke, too, ties believing in general to the recovery of the little girl. "Believe, and she shall be made whole," Jesus says. 40 years later, John continues the making of the legend. He tells of Lazarus where none of the previous 3 did. That tends to make it very suspicious by itself. Lazarus is not only just recently dead, as were the other victims of death described by Matthew and Mark and Luke. Lazarus has been dead for days. John pours it on. Lazarus is so dead, his body has already started to stink and decay. Jesus, of course, restores him from decay. John, too, ties belief to recovery from death, but no longer just belief in general, implying power in belief itself, but rather specifically belief in him, Jesus. "He that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live," he says. Friends, do you see what I see in this seemingly innocent progression? Do you suppose we are witnessing in stair-stepping fashion the making of a legend? The story keeps getting bigger and bigger as the story is told. It's kind of like a fisherman catching a 2-pound fish but telling a friend he caught a 3-pound fish. That friend passes on the story and the fish becomes 4 pounds. The next story makes it 5 pounds, and so forth. But in the end, the story gets so far out of hand that we have no alternative but to deny any part of the story. In the translation of a legend, unfortunately, true stories are lost. But I maintain, friends, Christ was not a party to the legend in his name. Christ did not come to be man's savior, but to be man's teacher. Christ wrote not one word to invent or continue the legend of Jesus. We have been fools for 2,000 years, friends. Need we continue the tradition? Or can we now be freed of what can properly be called Jesusanity, not Christianity? Can we now embrace a truer and more meaningful Christianity? True Christians are not born again, friends. True Christians are satisfied with their first birth and have no need to undo a miracle. It takes courage to admit you've been cheated, to admit that Jesus is properly legend from the evidence of progressive stories in the Gospels, to admit that from just plain ordinary sense that a Messiah is not needed to save us from a sin we do not have. But friends, it takes only wisdom to realize that life, all life, is holy, and that can be the only true meaning of a Christmas birth.
Search from left to right to find a love that can be mine. More than often live in fright breeze. People want to find a friend that won't leave them in the end. Find a way that heaven sends, like an eagle to be free. But they clothe themselves in the country, they walk somber in the streets. They live in the fear of Jesus, and they claim that fear is sweet. People have problems seeing themselves, and often try to hide themselves. Seldom come to know themselves when they have the chance. People think they know the Son, because they think the Father's one. Make them so they need undone from a devil's trance. But they clothe themselves in the country, they walk somber in the streets. They live in the fear of Jesus, and they claim that fear is sweet. I'm sorry that I have to say, Emmanuel wasn't known in his day. In the name of Jesus we've had to pay for our blindness to the end. Emmanuel came to set us free, but we nailed him to a tree. In a false name claimed liberty, and chained him as our friend. The time has come to release that bond, and recognize we're still not strong, in spite of bathing in his pond for 2,000 years. We've changed the rules of Emmanuel, from love thy neighbor as thyself, to love the church or go to hell, and our rule is one of fear. I'll run naked in the country, I'll go quiet in the streets. I'll live in the love of Emmanuel, and I'll run with a gazelle. I'll run naked in the country, I'll go quiet in the streets. I'll live in the love of Emmanuel, and I'll run with a gazelle. I'll live in the love of Emmanuel, and I'll run with a gazelle.
Friends, we should be free like the birds, but we're not. We're not free because we've lost sight of the basics. And one of those basics is dreams. The world of the spirit is not the world of law. It's the world of imagination. The world of law suppresses imagination and freedom and hates what is lofty. The world of law hates. The world of dreams and imagination loves. How many dreamers are against freedom and nakedness? Hardly any. How many haters who despise nature and natural beauty are dreamers? Hardly any. What is a dream, friends? And who are the dreamers? To dream is to take what is real and look at it in an imaginary way. Imagery is what dreams are all about, and imagery is what the senses are all about. Therefore, to be a good dreamer, the senses again must be utilized. It's not sinful to see a naked lady and see and dream a queen. It's sinful to see a naked lady and see a conspiracy. It's not sinful to hold a naked man and close your eyes and dream whipped cream and strawberries. It's sinful to hold a naked man and believe in dragons. It's not sinful to enjoy the sight of naked children playing in the sun. It's sinful to see naked children and see little demons. It's not sinful to hear the thunder and imagine it God's song. It's sinful to hear the thunder and say it's God's wrath. Dreamers dream, and dreamers do not sin. It's impossible to dream wonderful tales, friends, and plan horrible nightmares. Any who have nightmares are guilty of not dreaming. You can always tell the villains by the nightmares they have. And too often, friends, we take what is imaginary and we make it real. And we lose the dream and the power to dream. We take imaginary kings and queens and make them real and fail to be dream kings and queens ourselves. Don't be a king. Imagine yourself a king. There's a lot of difference. Don't be a queen. Imagine yourself a queen or a princess, and I will imagine myself your prince. I can dream of being crowned a king and love the world for it. But the day, friends, that I allow myself to be actually crowned a king, even of my own home or community, is the day I would lose sight of the royal dream. Dreams become nightmares when men become kings and women become queens. Keep royalty imaginary. And don't pass laws to suppress the dreamer under the guise of protecting the innocent. The innocent do not need protecting, friends. Don't pass on your guilt to them and deprive them of their innocence. The guilty have no place to protect the innocent, for in such protection is condemnation. Think about it. And if you have already accused yourself of your own dirt, why are you concerned about protecting yourself from me, who is clean? I am without sin, not because I am above nature, but because I am nature's expression, and nature is sinless. And if you say nature is not sinless, you accuse God who created it of fashioning sin. And if you accuse God of sin, you have denied that God is good. It's no wonder, then, that you tremble in your shoes, as I once did. But regardless of the protection, friends, whether it be from the innocent or the guilty, too much protection smothers and creates kingdoms isolated from freedom and dreams. You do not protect me by passing a law stating I can't go naked in the street, and you condemn yourself by declaring your guilt. You suppress my freedom to dream and fly like a butterfly. You do not protect me by passing a law stating I can't go naked in my front yard. You suppress my freedom to dream and to play with the puppies. You do not protect me by passing a law stating I can't go naked in my living room. You suppress my freedom to dream and your freedom to dream and to be crowned a prince of whipped cream. You do not protect me by passing a law stating I can't go naked in my bathroom. You suppress my freedom to dream and to be for a moment a world-famous tenor in the shower. Laws don't protect the innocent, friends. They create false kingdoms and damage the dreamer. Thou shalt not go naked, even in thy bathtub. Ridiculous, you say? When lawyers have no other laws to pass, they'll pass one as ridiculous as that. And of course it will be for the bather's own protection, right? We've lost sight of dreaming, friends. Perhaps it's time we started dreaming again. Another of the basics we've lost sight of is the soul. Defining the soul is that property of personality that records for posterity the experiences of life. We all have souls. In some way, we will pass on to posterity our experiences of life. That medium, friends, that records those inheritable trends and dispositions is the soul. Whether we personally live on in a separate dimension, as I personally choose to believe, or live on genetically through the vibrations we leave behind, we will survive death. We will reap what we sow, and later on sow again what we've reaped. Because you certainly cannot sow what you have not reaped, right? The good rule to follow is, don't sow what you would not want to reap. That's the golden rule of the ages, and it's true. In effect, there can be no such thing as death, friends, because what we've done and what we feel will continue in some way. Energies may be transformed from one vehicle to another, but they're never obliterated. Divine naturism and its concepts is more a conclusion of the energies of the past ages than it is the foundation of something new. Perhaps I am but a single spokesman for an energy that is prevalent, but an energy that comes from the past. Other energies come from the past, too, that conflict with the principles of divine naturism, and have always conflicted with them. Time alone will tell if those conflicting energies have diminished as the energies of divine naturism have grown. But if those conflicting energies have not diminished, and divine naturism cannot survive, then pure and simply, the future, your children and mine, will inherit again the conflicting energy. And I guess those of us with the outlaw energy of divine naturism will have to find someplace else to live, not the earth. The earth will have proved inhospitable, as it probably has many times in the past. Anyway, whatever the soul is, it infuses or informs or fills the entire body, not just the head. That's another reason to go naked, perhaps the most important reason of all. If the soul sees or experiences through the body, as can be reasonably assumed, let it see or experience through the whole body, not just the face and hands. If all we do is wear clothes, friends, that's what the soul will see. If we go naked and blend in with nature rather than try to suppress it or supervise it, that's what the soul will experience. The natural body, friends, is exceedingly more spiritually impressive than the rags we have chosen to adore. The soul is a beautiful thing. If it records permanently what the mind temporarily stores, the key to the health of the soul is to fill the mind with enthusiastic, uplifting contents. Experiences feed into the mind, and through the mind to be permanently impressed upon what we call the soul. That is permanently until we change what we pass through the mind. So if we fill the mind with garbage, that is also what will fill the soul. It's absolutely amazing to me, friends, that so many people spend their lives filling their minds with very depressing energies and contents, and then expect their souls to be taken off to heaven. Grief and jealousy and hatred and judgment are not the items to be found in heaven, friends. If you fill your mind with grief and jealousy and hatred and judgment, that's what your soul will know and what you will recover when you die, even as you experience it while you live. You'll just have a double loss on your hands. No, friends, happy is a much better content and energy. Don't you agree? Okay, friends, let's discuss freedom and responsibility. I believe in them both, but I do not believe in the imposition of either. Imposed freedom, of course, is impossible, but imposed responsibility is very possible. It's often called duty. But what one man feels responsibility for, another man may not. No society has the right to impose fighting against a citizen's own good conscience, and no society has the right to impose as standard some totally arbitrary rule of morality. Nothing, friends, is more disruptive of freedom and holiness than the imposition as standard of some collective decision of morality. Governments down through history have done so with a very uncomfortable degree of persistence. They say they have the right. They often say it is God-given. It is not. It never has been, and it never will be. God is no man's counselor or dictator, but rather every being's intimate presence friend. God has given no man any right to rule over any other man. Men assume the right and argue for convenience sake that it came from God. But given that no society has the right to impose moral or military duties, lest freedom itself be violated, what about volunteered personal responsibility? It's the ideal for sure. In my opinion, if a society is worth defending, volunteer effort should be almost natural among the citizens. If the cause is worth defending, the troops will be there, or fighting for the cause will be less worthy than surrender. Give me liberty or give me death. The cry of the Revolutionary War. This country supposedly became a great nation because it won that war. But perhaps it could have been greater if it lost. Perhaps if the colonists had surrendered and not given their conscripted blood for the cause, the problems with the British could have been resolved peacefully. Then slavery may have been resolved peacefully in Washington and London, and America may not have known civil war. And if England and America were one, Germany perhaps could not have forged ahead in the First World War. And if there hadn't been a First World War, perhaps Germany would not have had reason to experience humiliation in defeat, the excuse that Hitler used to stage his surprising takeover. And if Germany had been at peace with Russia, and the American solution of peaceful resolution of conflict had prevailed, the peasants in Russia would have been treated more fairly by the Tsar. And if the Tsar had been more fair, Lenin and Stalin could not have gained any support whatsoever for their revolution. And if the Russian Revolution had not occurred, communism would not have been born to spread throughout Europe and Asia and Cuba. And there would have been no Korean conflict and Vietnam War. That's what could have happened, friends, had America not fought the Revolutionary War. Perhaps, huh? But we chose the way of fighting in the name of liberty, and we have had fighting ever since. Generals will never retire on their own, friends. Non-support may be our best defense against those who stir us to battle. It's in their blood to love a fight. That's how they prove their mettle and win their medals. We can't be so blind as to obey them without personally choosing to do so. But there again is where freedom comes in. We must be free to make a personal choice. Sometimes it may be right to fight for a cause. That's a personal decision, or should be. Would I fight for a cause with a gun? I don't know. But I want that choice to be my own. I may well choose to fight rather than surrender, after weighing the matter very, very carefully. But no one has the right to force their decision as my own. That's what freedom and responsibility are all about. You're so naive, I'm told. A Hitler could not have been defeated in a conference room. Again, I say, Hitler may not have been an issue at all if this country had been a member of the English fraternity. And the King and Queen of England could have been peacefully dethroned, and the pretense of any divinely inspired king and queen could have been overridden by the people's choice. And then we could have extended the freedom to the walls in Rome, and the Pope and all his bishops could have had their scepters ignored and offered no obedience. God is infinite presence, friends, and exists everywhere and in everything, and has no need to speak to man from without through some vehicle who claims divine right. And the Ayatollahs and other pretentious scolders of humanity could all eventually be denied an audience. All this could come about peacefully if each of us is free to be responsible. We the people could do what no government or governments could succeed in doing, and this world could industrialize its poor and sing its songs together. Ladies and gentlemen and little adults, friends all, I'm talking to you now as one individual to another, as one who has no more or less than any of you, physically, emotionally, intellectually, or spiritually. Make your own decisions, but let them be your own. Don't force them on others. From the halls of government to within the walls of our homes, we are mostly content to let others make our decisions. That's convenient, but it isn't right for any of us who want to live the fullest life possible. And it's totally irresponsible. We want others to decide for us, and so we elect representatives to do that, whether these representatives be governmental, familial, or religious. Somebody else always has the greater capacity to make our decisions. God has spoken to others. We must listen. We are afraid of making mistakes, religiously and sexually. Don't go naked around a child. That child might touch you, and you will feel arousal. Don't handle the honest emotion that results. Ignore it, suppress it, and hide behind some prophet who very conveniently has banned what you already can't handle. Therefore we stagnate and hide behind laws that say, "Thou shalt not." Thou shalt not, friends, is often a convenient excuse not to have to decide yourself. It's a garment for the irresponsible who can't think for themselves. It's convenient to allow others to carry our rightful burdens of decision, and we gladly accept the overriding veto powers of any who choose to say, "You can't make that decision. I will make it for you, because somebody else made it for me." The tragedy of it all, friends, is that we end up ignoring the only nation that counts, the nation of nature.
Come join with me and be a child. I believe in the land of Russia. I believe in America. I believe in friendly Germany. I believe in England's trust. I believe in Japan and China. I believe in pyramids. I believe in Argentina, but mostly just in nature's mist. I believe in the nation of nature. I believe in the call of the wild. I believe in the nation of nature. Come join with me and be a child.
I don't believe in praising emperors. I don't believe in empires. I don't believe in kings and queens. I don't believe that they're inspired. I don't believe in saluting generals. I don't believe they have the right to make a man go against his morals, to take a life or suffer might.
I believe in the nation of nature. I believe in the call of the wild. I believe in the nation of nature. Come join with me and be a child. I don't believe in applauding bishops. I don't believe in what they claim. God can't be the spoiled captain, all the crew that has gone astray. If God is not that spoiled captain, I can't be his rebel child. God lives in what he created. That's the nation of my pride. I believe in the nation of nature. I believe in the call of the wild. I believe in the nation of nature. Come join with me and be a child. I believe in the nation of nature. I believe in the call of the wild. I believe in the nation of nature. Come join with me and be a child.
True or false, friends? Happiness is being recognized. How would you answer that? Is happiness being recognized? For the millions of Jesusites, the answer would be a resounding yes. If I live my life recognizing Jesus as my King, when I die, He'll recognize me. The Jesusites say the only way to get Jesus to recognize me as one of His great fans is to live my life in recognition of Him, to accept Him as my personal Savior. It's got nothing to do with self-worth for them or love that's not Jesus-oriented. It's only the recognition of Jesus that matters. If Jesus doesn't say, "Bless you, my son," or "Bless you, my daughter," or "Bless you, my friend," then I will not receive His noteworthy recognition, and I will, in effect, be damned forever. To those who believe this, let me candidly say, and the real Christ would be right there beside me as I say it, you have missed the boat. While you've been waiting at the dock for Jesus to come and pick you up, He and the happiness ship will have sailed without you. Happiness is not being recognized, friends. It's not trusting others to do for you what you alone can do for yourself. Our closing commentary will address that issue squarely. Happiness is not being recognized as a fan, but being grateful. My dear old dad used to say, "Son, God doesn't want sacrifice. He wants gratitude." That alone is the batter of happiness, the bread of joy. Being grateful, not being recognized, is the bread of happiness. You could live alone on a deserted island and be happy, not by being recognized, but by being grateful for all the elements around you: the sun, the moon, the stars, the air, the rain, the trees, the clouds, the caresses of life. Jesus will not need to be there for you to be happy. If you require Jesus to be happy and the recognition of Jesus, my friend, you'll never be happy in this life or the next. Say thank you to the sun for its kind blessing upon your naked body. That will make you happy, if you really feel it. Say thank you to the clouds for giving you a break from the heat of the sun. That will make you happy. Say hello to the squirrel for sharing the air you breathe. That will make you happy. Say thank you, Mother, for the love you've given. That will make you happy. Say, "Thank you, my daughter, for the Father's Day gift." That will make you happy. And yes, say thank you to Christ for showing us that life is in itself worthy. That will make you happy. That's all there is to happiness, feeling grateful for the many, many gifts of life. And every single gift of life represents an element of freedom that, denied, becomes a barb of diminishment, an element of disgrace. That's why I love nakedness so much. It's saying thank you to nature and God for the gift of life and the gifts within life. Those who deny me the right to go naked are those who disgrace it. They disgrace it by not being grateful for it. And not being happy themselves, they often deny others the right to be respectful. Lying naked in the sun implies that the rays of the sun are sufficient for that moment's happiness. And that implication implies that Jesus or Allah or Muhammad or Moses or whomever are not needed for happiness. Going naked in the sun would amount for them saying no to Jesus and yes to Satan. Heaven forbid. Thus the armies of Jesus and Allah and Muhammad and Moses lay down a command: "Thou shalt not go naked, lest the way of ingratitude and moral righteousness be challenged." Disgrace, friends, literally means being ungrateful. We disgrace life and ourselves when we are ungrateful. Happiness has absolutely nothing to do with recognizing Jesus or being recognized by him. Those who believe it have missed the boat. Don't wait at the dock, friends, for a ship of Jesus that will never arrive. Lay naked in your backyard or front yard, and as the sun caresses you, say thank you for the many, many elements that bless you and grant you freedom. That will make you happy. And the real Christ would be the first to lie naked beside you. Paul of Tarsus and Mohammed, both unhappy with life, would be clothed to the eyebrows. Christ, perhaps happiness immortalized because he yielded to life, even to give up his own life without resentment, would be naked. Think about it. Would you suspect otherwise? Christ yielded. And nakedness is yielding, and yielding in gratitude is happiness. I repeat, yielding in gratitude is happiness. While the Jesusites are looking for a Savior clothed in full garment, Christ probably comes periodically walking naked before them and is consequently rejected by them. Happiness is yielding in gratitude and saying thank you for the many, many elements of life that bless us in freedom.
There's an element of freedom in the way that we walk. There's an element of freedom in the way that we talk. There's an element of freedom by the way we comb our hair. There's an element of freedom almost everywhere. There's an element of freedom by the look of our eyes. There's an element of freedom to the sun in the sky. There's an element of freedom by the way we touch our parts. There's an element of freedom in shamelessness of heart. I don't know who long ago signed that man should not feel the goodness of his nature without the help of God, or who first said that man has lost his righteous ways and needs some special grace to liven up his days. It's all a lie, I'm telling you, as I am standing here. The only thing we need to love is the freedom to care about one another, man, woman, and child, giving as we take without a hint of compromise. There's an element of freedom in the way that we walk. There's an element of freedom in the way that we talk. There's an element of freedom by the way we comb our hair. There's an element of freedom almost everywhere. righteousness so far. They say that man and woman have lost the fiber of their strength, that we're breaking down the walls of morality at length. We should have tumbled down those walls so very long ago. The walls of the unnatural is why our progress is so slow. It's shameful that man and woman should be ashamed of their excitement. It's part of life and should be embraced in all of its enticement. How dare we tell our children that our truth is tell the lie, that the impulse of the flesh is sinful and undivine. There's an element of freedom in the way that we walk. There's an element of freedom in the way that we talk. There's an element of freedom by the way we comb our hair. There's an element of freedom almost everywhere.
I don't pretend to have all the answers, friends, but I do know no one else has all the answers either. The joy of life is asking our own questions. If you don't ask questions, you'll never find, or have a need to find, answers in truth. Regardless of the quest, truth is always more valiant, if not more endearing than anything, even romance. Although I must admit that even more beautiful than truth is the will to find it and to enjoy it once you've found it. For without will, truth might as well be for nothing, for it has as much impact. We must each sign our own Emancipation Proclamation. No one can free us but ourselves. But the elements of freedom are as close as our nakedness and the nakedness of our brother and sister. God is everywhere, and in everything, and in everyone. Reach out and touch, and whatever you touch is God.
be derided, even though those who sing, from the smallest little atom to the biggest star. That's where God is living, and He's living where you are. From the smallest little atom to the biggest star. God is infinitely everything, and everything's His job. For God there is no hell, as He is everywhere, and those who from God fell, God is still found there. I am sorry that we've been told a different theme, but now let it be said that tales from a thief, from the smallest little atom to the biggest star. That's where God is living, and He's living where you are. From the smallest little atom to the biggest star. God is infinitely in everything, and everything's His job.
Well, friends, it's time for us to go. Let us leave you with this thought. No one can do it for you. The message of the real Emmanuel, the real Jesus, 2,000 years ago was that no one can do it for you. Or isn't your need to use all your own talents the equivalent of that message? I repeat that sentence. No one can do it for you. Or me. But Lord, I'm too modest to do it for myself. You asked me to use all my talents. There are some that are too unworthy to be used. So I declare I'm too modest to try. Modesty, friends, is more often than not an excuse for feelings of inadequacy. We are modest when we feel rejection or fear rejection. We hold ourselves in low esteem and we say we are modest. We say we are modest. The truth is we don't like our bodies, and modesty is a convenient excuse because it is socially acceptable. Friends, I don't think you're going to find any modest souls in paradise. It's a contradiction in terms. Paradise is really feeling worthy and loving yourself and life in general. How many preachers have preached that the road to paradise is practicing modesty, holding yourself in low esteem? If that makes sense to you, friends, continue with your modesty. If not, be honest and cast off your unworthiness and your modesty. No one can do it for you. Modesty is the band-aid for the spiritually ill. It's attacking feelings of unworthiness by attempting to cover the wound. The wound is the form of life. The wound is the extra spare tire around the middle. The wound is the mouth-shaped testicles or the drooping breast. The wound is the smallness or the largeness. The wound is discomfort with nature and rejection of nature. We cover it all with the security blanket of modesty and sin. There's only one wound to fear, and that is the wound of blindness. Modesty is not the road for the sighted, but the pathway for the blind. No one can do it for you. All that modesty will get you in the end, friends, is a room full of clothes and a soul full of fear. Where will that room full of clothes take you in the life hereafter, let alone this life? We practice in our minds what we do with our bodies. If we cover up the truth of our bodies, we will also cover up the truth in our minds. Clothes are a very dangerous obstruction for those who really want the truth because of that rule of transference. What we do externally, we also practice internally. What will that soul full of fear make you but afraid to say, God, I love you, because I respected the gifts you gave? You'll have reason to fear you can't say it, because you'll know you failed to believe it. My son, my daughter, I gave you the precious gift of life. I, Mother Nature and God, account for it now. What did you do with it? I covered it, Lord, with the blanket of modesty. What will be the judgment, friends? If your judgment is for covering the truth in life, then the judgment after life will say you must continue the decision. You must continue to cover up the truth. The habit only begins here, and you begin the habit. And that's judgment. Would not the better habit be gratitude, being grateful and acting grateful and not ashamed of the gifts of nature? My son, I gave you the precious gift of life. Account for it now. What did you do with it? Lord, I fell in love with it. And he or she says and will say, good. Guys, from 3 to 93, take your balls in your hands. Ladies, from 3 to 93, take your breasts in yours. What more can I say that God has not already said in His or her creation? Look at them and whisper, it's a miracle.
Go in peace, my brother. Go in peace, my friend. Go in peace, my sister. With a love that will never end. People are walking around this town trying to fit their key, but many of the doors they're trying are completely outside themselves. Passing the first door of self, they never will succeed to find any doors but those that eventually lead to hell. If you want to find the door to peace, turn your key upon yourself. Look at the world through your own eyes and make your love felt. Go in peace, my brother. Go in peace, my friend. Go in peace, my sister. With a love that will never end. God did not make us free just so we should concede. He did not make us to fit any law completely outside ourselves. He made us to know and love Him through His creation's tree, to accept Him with gratitude and without any guilt. If you want to find the door to peace, turn your key completely inwards. The door to God is through your heart, and joy will be your reward. Go in peace, my brother. Go in peace, my friend. in others,